This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho, there's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to yet another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, October the 4th, is a basketball icon who is playing for the New York Knicks. He still plays and all that. He played 1 year college ball and then went into the NBA draft in 2008. He's Rookie of the Year and an MVP winner. And so this guy was pretty good, but his MVP season was a disastrous thing. Because in the first round of the playoffs, after his MVP season, he tore his ACL and went out for about a year. Injuries have ruined him and all that. He's been with the Knicks since 2021. He is Derrick Rose, who's 34 years old today. Derrick Rose was born in the Englewood area, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side. All that. Anyway, Rose was a legend at a Chicago high school. He wore 25 in honor of Benji Wilson, who was a promising player who was actually murdered by a gang member during his senior year in 1984. So, anyway, it looked pretty good and all that. So, anyway, he was good for the team. He was a great high school point guard. He was actually named the third best high school point guard by ESPN behind Chris Paul and TJ Ford. Anyway, his number 25 was retired. Anyway, Rose accepted a scholarship to play for the University of Memphis under John Calipari, who had a pretty good college career as a head coach. Indiana and Illinois wanted to make him an offer. Like, Illinois would have been great for him. Illinois wanted him and Eric Gordon, Rose and Gordon, to play for them. But Gordon retracted and went to Indiana, and Rose, had a thing of all that. Rose chose Memphis because of the school's history of putting players in the NBA, and knowing that Rod Strickland, who was a veteran of the league, would mentor him. Rose would have to wear 23 for the Tigers because 25 was retired for Penny Hardaway. Memphis looked pretty good with Rose, Joey Dorsey, and Chris Douglas Roberts. Memphis was actually 26-0 before losing to Tennessee in February. However, that was the only mistake Memphis made in the regular season. They were 33-1. They were number 1 in the South region in the NCAA tournament and took care of Texas's DJ Augustine, in the Elite Eight. In the Final Four, they took on UCLA, and Rose put up 25 points, Memphis winning, and would face Kansas. Big matchup, too. Rose would only score 17 points and missed a key free throw, which Kansas used to get Mario Chalmers a key three-pointer. Sorry. Before that helped them get to the final. That made it to overtime. Memphis lost the game 75-68. So Kansas was the world champion, was the NCAA champion. Rose decided to forego his final 3 years in Memphis and go pro. Unfortunately, a month after the NCAA loss to Kansas, the NCAA school had a letter to the school saying that Rose had an invalidated standardized test score and all that. Memphis would start its investigation. And unfortunately, the high school staff members kind of did some bad stuff and all that. His SAT score was terrible. And then in August of 2009, the NCAA invalidated Memphis' 2008 season. It took the position that because the Educational Testing Service voided Rose's SAT score after Rose's freshman year in Memphis. Strict liability required that Rose be actively declared ineligible. But even without the questions about his test score, Rose would have lost his eligibility because Reggie Rose, his older brother, was allowed to travel for free. All that. So it didn't matter. But Chicago had the #1 pick in the 2008 draft, so guess what? The Bulls needed to pick their hometown boy, and they did, Derrick Rose. So anyway, he looked pretty good. He became the first Bulls draft pick to score 10 points or more in each of his first 10 games since Michael Jordan. He played in the Rookie Challenge and even won the Skills Challenge at the All-Star game. So he looked pretty good and all that. He helped the Bulls get to the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, and Rose easily won Rookie of the Year, joining Michael Jordan and Elton Brand as the only Bulls to do so, and the first #1 pick since LeBron in 2003 to do so. So, yeah, it was a 6-year drought for the #1 pick. Rose would put up 36 points in his first playoff game against the Boston Celtics, and the Celtics lost on home turf 105-103 in overtime. Rose did well, but the Bulls held the Celtics well. Even though the Bulls lost the first round, they only did it in 7 games. So Rose as a sophomore was okay. But in his 3rd season, he shocked everyone by winning the MVP voting. It was just unbelievable. Well, it helped. The Bulls won 62 games in the 2011 season. It was the first time since '98, aka Michael Jordan's last season with the Bulls, that they hit the 60 mark. In fact, he became only the 3rd player since 1973, when the full set of records were kept, to score 2,000 points and 600 assists in a regular season. LeBron and MJ were the only 2. Rose was instantaneously named MVP, becoming the 2nd Bulls player, after MJ of course, to win it. At 22 years, 6 months old, he was the youngest player to receive the award. For context, for me, it would have been 2008 when I was watching the NCAA tournament. Anyway, Wes Unseld held the record for a while at age 23 years, 2 months, when he won in '69. Anyway, the Bulls got to the conference finals against Miami and faltered in 5 games. Anyway, Rose would sign a 5-year extension with the Bulls in 2011 for $94 million. The contract was 30% of the Bulls' salary cap, which was the maximum allowed, a rule called the Derrick Rose rule for the new CBA. Rose looked pretty good and all that. Unfortunately, during Game 1 of the first round of the playoffs against the Sixers, Rose tried to jump but then injured his left knee and was helped off the court. The Bulls were looking pretty good and all that. Unfortunately, Rose tore the ACL in his left knee and would have to miss the rest of the playoffs. When he had surgery, his recovery time was 8 to 12 months, and the Sixers subsequently won that playoff series, if you must know. So anyway, Rose did not take part in the 2013 NBA season because of his rehabbing. Despite Rose's absence, the Bulls advanced to the conference semifinals, losing to the Heat. And Rose looked pretty good and all that. In the preseason, he looked good. Rose even said that, jumping-wise, I increased my vertical by 5 inches. He only played 34 minutes in the first game against the Miami Heat and was limited to 12 points. Unfortunately, in November against Portland, he injured himself. He tore his right knee meniscus, and surgery was required. So he was out for the season. But he would be back for the 2014-15 season and put up 13 points in 21 minutes. He would only appear in 51 games for the 2014-15 season, but it was the most in 4 years since its MVP season. So another meniscus tear of the right knee happened. All that. So that's what happens. All that. Rose would actually score a famous 3-pointer at the buzzer for the Bulls against the Cavs in the conference semis, making the Bulls go up 2-1. Unfortunately, the Caps won the next 3 games and won the series in 6. So in 2016, he played one more year, his final year with the Bulls, and then was traded June 2016 alongside Justin Holiday and a 2017 second-round pick to the Knicks for Jose Calderon, Jerian Grant, and Robin Lopez. So he played for the Knicks for a season and all that. Unfortunately, he tore the meniscus in his left knee April 2017, making him go through knee surgery for the 4th time in his 9-year career. So after that, he signed a 1-year deal with Cleveland. Unfortunately, he had frustration with injuries, and it caused him to question his desire to continue playing. I mean, that makes more sense. However, he didn't stay the full 2017-18 season with Cleveland. February 2018, Rose was acquired by the Jazz in a 3-team trade, which involved the Cavs and Kings. But the Jazz waived him 2 days later. But Minnesota gave him a chance, as he would actually be reunited with his former Bulls coach Tom Thibodeau and former teammates Jimmy Butler and Taj Gibson. The Timberwolves would lose the first round to Houston. But he re-signed with the Timberwolves for the 2018-19 season and put up 50 points in his first start of the season on Halloween 2018 against the Jazz. He looked pretty good and all that. Bulls fans even gave him an MVP chance when he came back as a Timberwolf in Chicago. It looked pretty good and all that, but he would have ankle troubles. Unfortunately, he would be injured with right elbow problems and wouldn't be able to play. Rose then signed with the Pistons July 2019 and played a few years with them. And then February 2021, he was traded back to the Knicks for Dennis Smith Jr. and a second-round pick. Rose would help the Knicks get 4th in the East. Unfortunately, the Hawks would win the series in 5 games. He was given a 3-year contract extension for $43 million, which is unbelievable. Rose did win 2 World Cups with U.S. in basketball. He's 6'2", 200 pounds, which is pretty impressive and all that. He only has played 672 regular season games. He missed 2 full seasons due to injuries, so in essence, that's not good. Well, 11 points per game, 4 assists per game. In the playoffs, he's played 51 postseason games in 7 attempts at the postseason. His best chance was in 2011, getting the Bulls to the conference finals in 2015, too. But 22.4 points per game in the playoffs, that's amazing what he could do in the playoffs, but not in the regular season. He was going to be pretty good for Memphis. But, of course, because of his SAT problems, Memphis doesn't have the banner for their finals appearance in 2008 at the Pyramid for obvious reasons. So yeah, he's MVP 2011, Rookie of the Year 2009. He tried. Rose has a son and is a Christian, spoken of his faith, saying, "God does everything for a reason." True. Anyway, doesn't matter. Derrick Rose was on the cover of NBA 2K13 with Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin. Rose is a part owner of Giordano's Pizzeria. He signed a few Adidas contracts, but other than that, he's still a pretty good player. But injuries just cost him dearly, and that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do